It's that time of the year again. The long list for the 2024 CAF Awards has been announced, including that of Senior Men's African Player of the Year. And that's the most prestigious, the most talked about title. We're going to talk about who deserves to win the title up next on this episode of the African Five-A-Side podcast. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the African Football Roundup on the African Five-A-Side podcast. I'm your host, Maher Mizahi. And as always, this podcast is brought to you by africasaCountry.com. Please, if you haven't checked out Africa's a Country yet, go follow them on socials. Go check out the website in particular, read a few articles. It's going to make you smarter and more knowledgeable about the African continent. I promise you, you won't regret it. So, this week, what I wanted to talk about was that the Confederation of African Football, well, there were many things that happened. They had the General Assembly and so on and so forth. But most importantly, for our purposes, they've announced the long lists of the 2024 CAF Awards, which are going to be held, I believe, in Marrakesh in Morocco in December, the middle of December. So, just in about 6 weeks' time. Me personally, I've been invited to vote on the CAF Awards last year and the year prior to that. It's something that I've always been very honored and grateful to do. For me, it's almost like a recognition a little bit that, I'm doing an okay job covering African football and that my opinions are valued to some extent. And so, always very, very happy to do it. But I always notice that when these awards are given, there's a lot of controversy. And some people, don't understand how we get to the decisions that we do. Now, the only thing I can tell you about is how I get to my decision, and I'm going to explain a little bit about my decision-making process. The first thing is that I don't have any input, I don't think any media does, in the long list that the Confederation of African Football publishes. What I do have is a link that they send over for each category. So, for example, for the senior men's national team player of the year, African player of the year, they'll give me like a link that you can click on, and then you have each of the 10 names. And what you have to do is, besides each player, you rank them, number 10, number 9, number 8, number 7, and obviously the player that you think should win African Football Player of the Year is number 1. Last year, I voted for Victor Osimhen. I think it was probably almost unanimous. There wasn't much of an argument there. But in the past, there has been a lot of controversy for various different reasons. I'm going to tell you how I'm looking at this year's list because they have released a list of 10 names, as I mentioned before. And we're going to look at how I would vote, even though I haven't been asked to vote yet for 2024, how I get to my decision-making process. This won't be a final decision if I'm chosen to vote again this year, but I just wanted to get you some behind the scenes look at my process. So the first thing is that I tried to set some criteria. For me, since last year was an AFCON year, the AFCON and your performance in an AFCON, in my opinion, is the thing I lend credence to the most. It's the most valuable piece of information that I will wait towards a player's performance for African Player of the Year. Equal to the AFCON is club accomplishments. So did this player do well in the Champions League? Did they do well in the league? Did they do well in the cup? And it's not just that their clubs do well, but how much of an input did they have in their club success? So, for example, a few years back, I remember Riyad Mahrez didn't make my top three, and in Algeria, that was a scandal. Not me, but the fact that he didn't make the top three of the African Footballer of the Year was a scandal. And I just felt like Manchester City would have had the exact same results with or without him. He was coming off of the bench a lot. Um, and they were like saying, yeah, but he won the Champions League. Yeah, but he didn't play in the Champions League, So how can I give him the credit for that when he didn't even play? So it's the players' participation and contribution in the African Cup of Nations. Let's say I give it at 5 points, right? And for the purposes of this video, let's make it a point-based system. 5 points. And then their club accomplishments, also 5 points. And then the other international competitions, whether that be the Olympic Games, whether that be friendlies, whether that be AFCON qualifiers, I'll give that about 3 points. Because what I really do value the most is the AFCON as well as the club performances. I'm not going to give a huge score, even to a tournament like the Olympics or international friendlies, simply because it's for me, it's not as important. So the first player we're going to talk about, and I'm going to go in the exact same order as these players were listed on the Confederation of African Football website. The first player is Amine Gouiri, the Algerian international. He's a forward, currently plays at Stade Rennes. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was absolutely shocked that he made this top 10. It doesn't make any sense to me. There are probably other Algerian players that are more deserving, and there are definitely other African players that are more deserving. I can name just off the top of my head Mohamed Salah from Egypt. Absolutely deserves to be here instead of Amine Gouiri. In Algeria, a player probably like Mohamed Amin Amoura probably deserves to be here more than Amine Gouiri does. So I was personally shocked. Even Rayan Nouri from Wolves deserves to be here more than him. So the reason why I'm shocked, Amin Gouiri didn't play in the African Cup of Nations at all. He had a knee injury. With his club, they got to the semi-final of the Coupe de France, the French Cup, and he was pretty influential there. I believe he scored a brace in one of the matches. Rando finished 10th in the league. Where Guiri has been pretty good is that in these AFCON qualifiers, the 2025 ones that we've been playing over the last few months, he scored a lot when he subbed in. I believe he's at 4 goals in his last 5 matches, but he's not even starting matches. He's usually getting garbage time and he comes on for the final 30 minutes, but he scores every single time. I think that's what caught their eye because I think he's probably the leading scorer or close to being the leading scorer of the AFCON qualifiers, and maybe that's why they included him. But let's look at his statistics. Last year, oh, I forgot to mention one very important thing, the timetable. This is not just the 2024 calendar year. I'm including December 2023 to end of October 2024. Okay, that's the time period that I'm judging these players by. So last year, if we include that timetable from December to the summer, 21 matches with Rennes, 6 goals, 4 assists. Not bad. This year he has 8 goals, 1 assist. Oh, sorry, 8 matches, 1 goal, 1 assist. Nothing to write home about. With the national team, 6 matches, 4 goals, and 1 assist in the time period that I mentioned. In total, 35 matches, 11 goals, 6 assists. Very respectable numbers. Very good numbers. Good player. But again, look at our criteria. AFCON, he gets 0 points. His club career, let's say we give him 3 points because they got to the semifinals of the French Cup. You know, he scored 11 goals last season. That's not too bad. 6 assists. So let's give him 3 points. And then for the rest of his international competition contributions, let's give him 2 out of 3 points. So overall, 5 points out of a total possible 13. 5 out of 13. And what you're going to see is that as we go down the list, he's last place and by far. He, in my opinion, does not deserve to be here at all, at all, at all. There's probably a dozen probably a dozen names that deserve to be here over him. So Emin Guiri is the first and probably the last player that we're going to talk about. Number 2 is Edmond Tapsoba. Burkina Faso had a poor AFCON. They lost in the round of 16 to Mali. They only had 2 clean sheets. He only had, sorry, 2 clean sheets with Burkina Faso from December 2023 to October 2024. So not much. But with his club career, Bayer Leverkusen, they accomplished absolutely historic feats. They won the Bundesliga undefeated. I'm going to repeat that. Bayer Leverkusen won the Bundesliga undefeated. I know you guys probably know this. They won the German Cup, the DFB Pokal. They went to the final of the Europa League. And Burkina Faso has qualified to this year's 2025 African Cup of Nations. I mean, the qualifications this year. So really, he's had a great year. I think he deserves to be on this list, unlike Guiri. He was mostly a starter in the Bundesliga, a starter all throughout the Europa League, one of the main cogs in Xabi Alonso's Bayer Leverkusen side. So, hey, I'm going to give him, for the AFCON, a 2.5 out of 5 because Burkina Faso crashed out in the round of 16 and they never really looked that great, including he himself had a few iffy moments in that tournament. With his club career, 5 out of 5. I can't give him any other score. And the rest of the international competitions, that's to say, like these AFCON qualifiers, I'm going to give him a 2 out of 3 for a total of 9.5 points. Okay. Uh, and the final statistical tally for Edmond Tapsoba, 54 matches, 1 goal, 3 assists. Right. I know we don't judge defenders by goals and assists, but playing 54 matches in a year is quite good. Again, compared to Guiri's 35, right? 54 matches is quite a lot. So credit to Tapso, but he's only 25 years old. I was a little bit, I did like a little bit of a double take when I read that again because I had a sense I thought he was like 27, 28 years old, but he still has a lot of good years in front of him. Very good defender. Next name on the list is Simon Adingra, Cote d'Ivoire and Brighton Hove Albion winger. Um, I think if you watch the AFCON and you watch Cote d'Ivoire, you saw that alongside Sebastien Haller, Simon Adingra was the key to Cote d'Ivoire's revival and renaissance at the African Cup of Nations. Um, he was initially injured in the group stages. Remember, the coach got fired. They brought in a new coach. Allaire was also injured, but then they sort of came to life in the knockout stages because those two players became healthy. And Adingra was so good at dribbling, provoking players, undoing defenses with his passing, and especially his dribbling and his combination play with Allaire and with other attackers for the Elephants. So, how can you give any other score but five for his African Cup of Nations? Perfect score for me. He won the most prestigious tournament at home, and it was mostly due to him. I'm not going to pretend like the rest of Cote d'Ivoire are garbage because that's not the case. We could also say Seko Fofana, Frank Kessié, uh, so many important players. Sebastien Haller for sure. Uh, well, it's not like he single-handedly dragged them to an AFCON title, but he was one of probably the two most important players in the knockout stage run. Now, for his club accomplishments, there's not much there. In total, we're looking at 27 matches from December of last year until now. 6 goals and 1 assist in those 27 matches. It's okay, but same thing. Brighton finished 11th in the league table, and they're not really relying on him as much as, Cote d'Ivoire were. Now it's normal. He's still a young player. He still has a lot to learn. Um, But as a result, I can't give him more than a 3 out of 5 for his club career. Might even revise that down to 2.5. And then finally, the rest of his appearances with Cote d'Ivoire after the AFCON, he hasn't made too many, been injured a bit. I'm going to give him a 1, maybe a 1.5 for a total of 9 points. So Simon Adingra, I see somebody whose AFCON performance justifies his presence in this list. But the rest of it doesn't do enough for me to put him, for me to at least, I think, for me, he didn't have a better year than Edmond Tapsoba, and I can't have him higher in the list. I don't think he's going to win AFCON Player of the Year, is what I'm saying. Chancel Mbemba captained DR Congo to a semi-final appearance at the AFCON. He was very, very good for l'Olympique de Marseille last year. At times, he captained the club. They got to the Europa League semi-finals. And if you watch him play, he played with that kind of passion and that energy that Marseille fans really want their players to play with. So if you ask Marseille supporters, I think they love him. But his problem is that this year, under the new, staff and technical staff, and especially Mehdi Benatia and his entourage, they've clashed with the player, and as a result, he's been completely frozen out. He hasn't played any matches. And so that's gonna, hurt his score. I gave him a 4.5 out of 5 for the AFCON performance because he was hugely influential and DR Congo got to the semifinals, which is, great for them. For his club career, I want to give him a 3 out of 5. And if he had played this season and he had been playing as well as he had last season, this would be a 4 or 4.5 easily. Um, and then finally, I give him a 2 out of 3 because DR Congo, for the rest of the international competition, they've done incredibly well throughout the summer and into these AFCON qualifiers. They've qualified uh, already for Morocco 2025, and they've been playing with a lot of stability, especially in defense. So Chancel Mbemba is the captain, by the way, of DR Congo. I think he's a player we tend to underrate a little bit on the continent. A total of 35 matches, 3 goals, and 2 assists. And again, that's impacted because he hasn't played at all this year for his club. But a total of 9.5 points out of 13 for me. Next, we have Serhou Guirassy, injured for large parts of the AFCON. This is what's really going to hurt him. He didn't really play in the group stages. I think he just came on at the end during the third and final match, um, and then he started making substitute appearances in the knockout stages. But he wasn't a big factor in the AFCON. But other than that, at the club level, he had a historic year. You know, he was playing for VfB Stuttgart, who finished second in the Bundesliga. That's an absolutely massive result for them. Um, Famously, he scored, overall last season, I think it was like 38 goals in 38 matches. But if we take into account our time period from December to end of October 2024. Um, we have last year's goal total 13 goals in 19 matches with one assist. This year, 7 goals in 8 matches with 2 assists. And then with the national team, 5 goals in 8 matches. And in particular, I believe most of those goals were scored in the most recent international window in October, where I think he even had a hat trick in the first half of one of the matches. So Guirassy is one of those players that initially I thought this kind of seems a little bit fluky to me, you know? Um, Maybe just the right player at the right time. But the more I watched him, both with Guinea and with his club, the more I think he's really good. Yes, he's developed a little bit late. He's a late bloomer. Maybe he's not world class, but he's not too far off. He's a very, very good striker. So he earned his move to Borussia Dortmund, and he's helping Guinea in the AFCON qualifiers. They're in a good place now, and I do expect them to qualify. So overall, 2 points for AFCON out of 5, 5 points out of 5 for his club accomplishments, and then 2.5 out of 3 for the rest of the international calendar. Overall, 9.5 points, which puts him level with Chancel Mbemba and with Edmond Tapsoba. And you're starting to see already that it's very, very tight. There's very little separating a lot of these players. They all had very good years. Let's go to Achraf Hakimi. Hugely influential at the AFCON, but a surprise exit versus South Africa. And we had much higher expectations from Morocco, them coming off the 2022 FIFA World Cup performance. He missed a crucial penalty. I believe it was in that match against South Africa. I think it went off the crossbar, if my memory serves me correct. With his club, PSG wins the league, but that's not exactly a surprise, right? They get to the semifinal of the Champions League, and that's progress for that club. That is improvement. But also, he was the captain of the national team at the Olympics, where Morocco won a bronze medal. So overall, I thought he had a very good year. For the AFCON, I'm going to give him a 3 out of 5. The club career level, I'm going to give him a 3.5 out of 5. And again, with Hakimi, like I was kind of harsh with Mahrez at City, you're in such a great club. If you're not one of the best three players at the club, I'm gonna dock you a little bit of points because I don't think that you yourself are carrying that club. Maybe that's unfair, but that's how I see it. And for the rest of his international career, I give him a full 3 out of 3 points because what Morocco did at the Olympics was simply sensational, and they've been cruising through these matches in the last few months, even though they've automatically qualified for the tournament that they're hosting in 14 months' time. So overall, 3 plus 3.5 plus 3 is 9.5 points, which puts him level with Chancel Mbemba and Edmond Tapsoba. His statistics, um, overall, 33 matches from December of last year to October of this year with the club, 3 goals and 6 assists. I thought his assists would be a little bit higher. With the national team, he played a whopping 19 matches between the AFCON and the Olympics, 4 goals and 3 assists. And again, if you watch Morocco, you see that they have so much quality all over the place, but Ashraf Hakimi offers them something that no other player offers them, really. He's hugely important to the way they play their football. So I'm gonna put him at 9.5 points and 50 total statistics of 52 matches, 7 goals and 9 assists. Incredible numbers for a right back, but we're kind of used to it with Hakimi, and maybe that's why we can tend to underrate him at times because we expect so much success from him anyways. His Moroccan colleague, his compatriot, Soufiane Rahimi, with Morocco and with Al Ain, he had an absolutely fantastic year. And it's one of those where outside of Europe, we're not really paying attention because he plays his club football in the UAE. But what's really going to hurt him here is that he didn't play at the African Cup of Nations. So, like Amine Gouiri, I have to give him 0 points there. And maybe Morocco really could have used him. Maybe if he was there, they would have made an even deeper run. Because you see the rest of the year how it unfolded, and it's top notch. Uh, AFC Asian Champions League winner, best player of the competition, top scorer. Olympic Summer Olympics top scorer as well in Paris. Helped him to a bronze medal, wins the Golden Boot with 8 goals in 6 matches. Incredible. And now he's become an absolutely integral part of the Moroccan attack. It used to be Youssef City at the beginning of the year, but now Ayoub El Kaabi, who should probably also be on this list, by the way, won was it the Conference League or the Conference League with Olympiacos, scored an incredible amount of goals. But him, Ayoub El Kaabi, and Soufiane Rahimi are doing a great job of bringing a lot of efficiency to the Moroccan attack. So Rahimi plays a little bit more in French, they'll say excentré, off the center, probably between the center halves and fullbacks on either side, whereas Ayoub El Kaabi is a little bit more of the target point man. But man, look at Soufiane Rahimi's statistics. Total of 36 goals in 47 matches, and 10 assists, almost a goal contribution per game. So what hurts him is the AFCON for me. That's why I can't have him be African Player of the Year. That's just how much I value the African Cup of Nations as a tournament. But I have a total of 8 points for him. And it hurts me because I love this player. I was part of a production team that made a documentary called The Rahimis, and you can find it if you download the FIFA Plus app in your Play Store or in the Apple Store. Download the FIFA Plus app and type in The Rahimis in the search bar, and you can watch a documentary on his family. The most humble people, when I spoke to members of his family, absolute salt of the earth people. His father was the groundskeeper of Raja Casablanca, and they used to live next to the training complex. And he's just a huge fan of Raja since the 1960s, I think, or the 70s. He's an older fellow. His brother plays at Raja. His sister's name is Raja. Just a completely obsessed family with Raja Casablanca. And for him to come through the club and do what he did and win, continental competitions with the club and then make his career in the UAE, even though I don't know him, I feel proud of him, because of what he did. And I'm really happy to see him on this list. I think many Moroccans are, but I can't vote for him to be African Player of the Year because he didn't play at the AFCON. Now, I get to probably my favorite here. And by favorite, I mean like favorite to win this award, and that's Ademola Lookman for Nigeria and Atalanta, the forward slash striker. Not only were him and Nigeria finalists at the African Cup of Nations, he was also very influential during the AFCON, scoring a few very important goals. I think it was against Cameroon, he scored a brace. He was like one of those two wingers in that, 4-5-1 Pissarro system. The other one was Moses Simon, and they were doing a lot of good jobs, and they were doing a great job, like sort of tucking in, combining interplay with Victor Osimhen, who was winning them balls and setting them free. So he had 3 goals in the knockout stages in the AFCON. I have to give him a 4 out of 5 for that. But with his club, Europa League champions, and he scores a hat trick in the final against Bayer Leverkusen, who we talked about earlier with Edmond Tapsoba, who had a great year. And he scores a hat trick in the final. Atalanta, they finished, by the way, fourth in the Serie A, so it's not just like they had a crap year in the league. And they went to the cup final of the Coppa d'Italia and they lose to Juventus. So great year all around for Ademola Lookman. I give him 4 out of 5 for his AFCON performance. 4.5 out of 5. That's a little bit harsh. I should probably even give him a 5 out of 5 for his club accomplishments. And then finally, I don't think he's played in all of Nigeria's matches, and Nigeria struggled a bit in the World Cup qualifiers since the AFCON. So I'm going to give him a 1.5 out of 3 for the rest of his international appearances for a total of 10.5 points. So for right now, he's the leader for me. And then you have a bunch of people coming in at 9.5. Two more names now. We have Ademola Lookman's colleague and teammate and compatriot, William Troost-Ekong, captain and leader of Nigeria at the AFCON as they finished finalists. He scores 3 goals as a center half in the AFCON. A few of them were penalties, I believe, but still, great job. And he played with an injury at the AFCON, and he sacrifices his club career. I think he was playing for PAOK in Greece. And he just basically says, you know what, screw it. I need to power through. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. We can win the AFCON with the Nigerian Super Eagles. Um, and he aggravates an injury. And as a result, and this is going to hurt him now in my voting, he misses the rest of the club year after the AFCON. But I want to sort of, because he's just somebody that we take for granted. But if you zoom out a bit, William Troost-Ekong has 73 caps for Nigeria. Only one Nigerian defender in history has more caps than him, Joseph Yobo, who has 101, right? And they both have 7 goals to their name. So we talk about all the great defenders in Nigerian history, Taribo West and all these guys. Nobody's made more appearances than William Troost-Ekong except for Joseph Yobo. So I think we need to start giving him a little bit more respect. I know he hasn't had the flashiest of club careers and he's played, um, perhaps at second-rate clubs. We can say he hasn't played in the European Champions League style, a top 4 club in England, for example, but very, very successful international career. Look at his statistics though. So this year, he's now at Al Khulud, I believe, in Saudi Arabia. 10 matches, 2 goals, 1 assist. Very good. But last year, he only ends up playing in 4 matches in that time period that I had highlighted, December of 2023 to October of 2024. With the national team, 10 matches and 3 goals. So total of 24 matches, 5 goals, and 1 assist. In that time period that I'm considering statistics for, that's the lowest amount of matches played. Again, it's because he aggravates an injury because he's going so hard at the African Cup of Nations and he's sacrificing his club career for his international career. But still, that penalizes him according to my formula. So I'm gonna give him a full 5 out of 5 at the AFCON, 1 out of 5 for club accomplishments, and then 2 out of 3 for the rest of the international career accomplishments. So total of 8 points for him, which puts him well below the other names in this list. Finally, we have the goalkeeper, the South African goalkeeper, Ronwen Williams. And this one is difficult, right? Because the rest of the players are outfield players. Many of them are attacking players, and so we have leg-to-leg comparisons. And for the first time, we somebody throws a wrench in all of this, and we have uh, a goalkeeper. Ronwen Williams, let's run through some statistics first. A total of 45 matches and 26 clean sheets in those 45 matches. He captained South Africa to a third place at the African Cup of Nations, their highest finish in a very long time. Finishes as a semi-finalist in the CAF Champions League with Mamelodi Sundowns, PSL champions in South Africa, and he's even up for the Yashin Award finalist for best goalkeeper in the world at the Ballon d'Or ceremony, which I think is going to take place in a few weeks' time. So, very great year for Williams, the captain of South Africa, the captain of Mamelodi Sundowns, and so much of what he does, I think you can't really rate, you know, the way he distributes with the ball at his feet, the way he leads his fellow teammates as a captain. Everybody that I've ever spoken to that has spoken to him, I haven't spoken to him, they've all told me that, you know, the most mature, intelligent, smart, just regular, overall good guy, you know, when it comes to footballers, which at times we can be a little bit harsh, I think, on footballers, right? But Ronwen Williams, uh, here's how I'm gonna rank him. I'm gonna give him a full 5 out of 5 at the AFCON, in particular for that performance that he had. Was it in the quarterfinal, or was it the round of 16 or the quarterfinal, where I think he stops 4 out of 4 penalties? Or was it that, or was it 5 out of 5? I don't remember, but it was something insane, and most people had said they had never seen that in their lives before. With his club, I might be a little bit harsh here. Let me know if I'm being harsh, but I'm only going to give him a 3 out of 5. And when I went back and watched the goals that, you know, Sundowns conceded in the CAF Champions League, even in the semifinals, they're not necessarily his fault, but like for example, in the first leg against Esperance, when Jan Sass is coming out, he's doing a good job of rushing out at him, making himself big. If he saves that, you know, that's what, in my opinion, an African Player of the Year has to do to win this tournament as a goalkeeper, to win this award as a goalkeeper. You have to make those kinds of saves, those absolutely incredible saves. It's not his fault that they conceded that goal, but if he makes that, then I'm going to recognize him with an award. So I'm going to give him a 3 out of 5 for his club accomplishments. And again, it's like me being harsh with Hakimi or Mahrez. It's like, yeah, you did great things with Sundowns, but we expect Sundowns to do great things even without you. If it was any other goalkeeper, would they have still gotten to the place that they would have gotten to? I think they would have, or it wouldn't have been very, very far off. And for the rest of his club international accomplishments, I think he wasn't playing in September. He missed a few matches, so I'm going to give him a 1.5 for a total of that sweet spot, 9.5 points out of 13. So you see, this is my general process. Is I'll do something like this just to filter out, you know, the outliers, like Amine Gouiri, for example, or William Troost-Ekong, just because he didn't have uh, any real contributions to his club throughout the whole year. For me, these are names that, although they had great years, uh, I don't think deserve to be on this list, particularly Amin Gouiri. Much rather have somebody like Ayoub El Kaabi or Mohamed Salah, Mohamed Amin Amoura, the other Algerian player, um, than those names. So yeah, usually I do this, and then I'll sort of rank them, and then I'll take the time to really delve in and read articles and watch matches and just try to refresh my memory. But what I would say is that looking at it initially for the very first time, I think Ademola Lookman is probably the most deserving player of African Player of the Year. That's not to say in my opinion, he's the best African player on the continent. But when you look at how consistent he was, especially at the AFCON and then with his club, nobody else did that, where they had that good of an AFCON and then that good of performance with their club. Think about the best Ivorian players. They had great AFCONs like Adingra or Seko Fofana or Sebastian Aller. Yes, they had great AFCONs, but did they back it up with similar performances? Did they go win the Champions League with their club and them being, scoring a hat trick in the final? The answer is no. Nobody did what Lookman did, where he paired up that AFCON performance with that club performance. And that's why I think he's deserving of the African Player of the Year award. Total statistics for him, I don't know if we did that or not. 51 matches, 22 goals, and 12 assists. A phenomenal year, I think, by anybody's standard. So, uh, again, I'll have to delve into it, look at it some more. I could change my mind, but for now, that's where I'm sitting at if I'm asked to vote again in the 2024 CAF Awards in Marrakesh. So yeah, just wanted to share that process with all of you guys. Let me know who you think deserves to be African Player of the Year for this year. And let me know if you're interested in me maybe doing a similar video, but for the rest of the awards, whether they be Young Player, Club of the Year, National Team of the Year, Interclub Player of the Year. I could do all of that and it would be a much longer video. But maybe I think sometimes it's good to refresh our memories and to review all of this. That way, when we do have our overreactions, because there will be overreactions and criticism of the Confederation of African Football for giving those awards out, at least we can have a solid basis to do it. Anyways, we'll leave it there for now. Thanks for watching again, and we'll speak to you very, very soon with another episode of the African Football Roundup on the African Five Side podcast. Till then, speak soon. Peace.